All right. Welcome to Inside the Grind podcast, the podcast for people building real coffee shops. Every episode, we sit down with someone who's deep in the day to day, hiring, fixing, worrying, making hard choices, and still showing up to serve. These are honest stories from founders in the thick of it. No fluff, no ego, just the real grind and what's getting them through. If you're building something on your blog, this one's for you. Brought to you by Coffee Futures Fund.
Where should I start? I guess just maybe how we got started. Is that a good place?
Yes, that's the perfect place. What inspired you to start this coffee shop? Was there a defining moment?
Yeah, I think so. So there's three of us, and I think especially after being actively in it for a little bit now, I keep reflecting on how I'm very glad that we have three people, and I think I'll probably keep touching on those aspects that we bring that are different. But I do think the three of us came together at a pretty opportune time, mid COVID, kind of when people were like, why not do the thing we've always wanted to? What if there's another pandemic? I mean, what if this one never ends? Like, this is like, why not now? And so what really made it important to us was the idea of like having a space and a way to build community. And I think coffee and all the sort of attributes people associate with coffee shops. So the idea of like a conversation, a space, time and place that's sort of both very global and like evokes a certain vibe, but is also just like kind of timeless in its it's a place outside of place, which is very rare, like to even have spaces nowadays to connect. And so like this came about during the pandemic, so we were thinking about like, well, what we miss the most is human interaction. At that time I was working in tech, my husband was working in tech, and he was working in people management, but it was all remote. So we're just like, we miss people. And like, I still work in my day job in tech for live events. And so I've always cared about like the power of connecting in person with people. And Jacqueline, our third partner, she was the one who's like, I have so much energy and I have like resources that I could get us started. Like, let's just talk about what that looks like. What would it take to even start the most minimal version of this project? And so I think coffee, it's like not the product, but the all of the experiential factors related to coffee that I think really drew us to like start with this idea. And then the personal connections that we bring to it, because I think that's what like connecting is about. Like what is unique is just what you are, I think. And so we wanted to bring it like from the get-go, we were like, hey, like it's going to be weird and maybe it won't hit very well, but let's try it. Like, let's make the food and drink German and Chinese influenced from my background and my husband, who's German. And it's something that we already do at home. And so it's like, it is very personal. And it's also, it's nothing like pretentious. We're just trying to bring people along for our journey and kind of the shared journey together. Yeah.
That's cool. That's awesome. I love it. So many things that you said, right from experiences. You said something. What's unique is what's personal. What's you? Something like that. That
Yeah. Yeah.
really, yeah, that hit home. That makes a lot of sense. What imagine about your promotions? Imagine about your Instagram. Imagine about whichever way you find this interview or assets coming out of this. How do you use it? So if you keep that in mind, what do you want to talk about? What do you want to bring up?
Gosh, that is a great question. Do you think, because it's been top of mind, like, the purpose of a third space and what draws people out and seeking something other than like, or as part of their routine, like, but if their routine is mostly centered around some known places like home or work, or now more and more just home is also work with remote work, like how do we like what's the fabric of like engaging in your local neighborhood and community, and like how do we like what is that routine now, like post covid and just globally now, like modern, like what do we do as humans, and how can a place like a coffee shop that has sort of this like been around as an establishment like across like centuries, like the idea of like you come here for nourishment, like food, drink, but also of like interacting with your fellow like citizens and neighbors, like what does that look like? So I guess, and why would someone choose to come to one shop versus another, I think is just something I'm curious about. So I feel like we try to be pretty intentional about like our values and on the sort of customer experience of coming into our shop and like hopefully you do feel a sense of connection, even if it's very, what you want is like the to go coffee, like we want to support that too. Like I've definitely been that person who's just like, I need caffeine and I also have a bus to catch, so I'm out of here, but I appreciate it. Like just kind of reading that and like seeing people like what their needs are and like how we can meet them with our space. Yeah.
Yeah. You said something very interesting about customer experience, and you previously talked about a vibe. So, if I'm a new customer, I don't know much about you, right? And there are so many coffee shops around. How would you describe your vibe or your customer experience in 3 words, let's say?
3 words.
Or how would you do it? Do it your way.
Yeah, what comes to mind is one of our values, which is meet you where you are. So it's a little longer than 3 words. It's also our Wi-Fi password, so it's also a little long there too. But it is what we believe in. It's the idea of if you're coming in and the first priority, of us in engaging with a customer is to welcome them. And part of welcoming them is understanding what they're looking for. Like, meet them where they are. And if they're wanting to connect, wanting to find a particular kind of food, hopefully we are able to match them to what they're looking for quickly. Or if it's not, sometimes it's not quick that people are looking for. Sometimes they want the actual engagement, and taking the time to do that, as it's like, obviously there's a line, you're efficient about it, but just, yeah, really engaging with each customer as an individual, not as a pure transaction.
How do you do that?
So I think we're very intentional about the space itself. So it's pretty small, but as soon as you come in, we want it to be clear what you're expected to do as a customer. So we have the sign that's like, meet us here. And so it's like kind of gently directs them, but not in a pushy way, like, limit 4 in the space or whatever. It's like everything is like, we want you to feel welcome, and we want you to tell us if something didn't feel welcome either, because that's what we have in our control to make that welcoming. And then just I think trying to give them like the attention and time, the eye contact, like greeted right away, feeling welcome, like just seeing the space itself with it's sort of like, it's here and then it kind of wraps around. So like it almost like pulls you in deeper, and hopefully people feel like they want to be pulled in deeper. The idea of like layers of depth is something we care about too. So like the shelving and like what catches your eye hopefully also pulls you in, but not in a like you're trapped sort of an appealing way. So
That's interesting. That's interesting. So, it's been 1 year for you for the shop, and you have gone through the phase of, just figuring stuff out. As soon as you start a coffee shop, there are so many things that you decide, okay, I want to talk about this, do that. And there are so many things. Today, after this whole experience of spending, 365 days in the shop, talking to people, making that experience really, really special. I'm curious. What have you found out that yes, this is exactly what's making it special from a customer's eyes? That yes, this is exactly why I'm coming to your shop and not the coffee shop next door. If you were thinking from your customer's point of view, what have you learned?
yeah, I think that I would hope. And I think like, it's like we put a lot of thought and care into everything. And so I hope that what people feel is that the holistic experience feels rich. So we talked a bit about the space, and then the product, like every aspect of the product, like something that we care about is that, again, with the meet you where you are, this idea of a third space. So, bars also meet that criteria, but a lot of coffee shops and bars, it's like already by definition exclusive in some format, because what if you don't want caffeine? What if you don't want alcohol? And so a lot of our menu is very intentional in the like, hey, what we're presenting you is the idea of the coffee shop and all of the like sort of existing like positive characteristics you associate with that, but it doesn't have to be limited to like a specific product. Food doesn't have to be an afterthought, which I think it's not like an intentional afterthought. Like some places intentionally focus on like, we want to do coffee only and do it well. And for us, again, with the like sort of focus on space, coffee is one of the forums in which we connect and build nourishment, but it's also like a form for all these other different ways that like we want people to feel like it's a like getting coffee is like sort of a general verb, not just literally getting coffee. And that here is where it's like, yeah, I'll get coffee, but I'm actually getting like I don't know, espresso martini or a beer or a non-alcoholic sort of spritz or like a meal, like hopefully providing just a place for some kind of nourishment of the body and of the soul, in terms of connection is kind of the focus.
Love that. Love that. And on that note, how do you think about your menu, the items on your menu? Yeah. What do people gain from that? What are people getting?
Yeah. So, like, I know I said that, drawing from personal experiences is kind of all you can do as sort of a unique offering. And so because we're drawing from like the German and the Chinese, and also we had like this is a side story, but it's also pretty unique and important. For a year before we opened in our own space, we were actually at the National Nordic Museum that was a block down the street. Our third co-founder, Jacqueline, she has a lot of like Danish connection. And so we kept some of that already. And even before we were at the Nordic Museum, because of the historical roots of this neighborhood that we're in being Nordic, we had like one of our biggest, or what do you call it, like the menu items that people like think about the most, our lava chocolate chip cookie is already inspired by the black licorice and chocolate and salty combo of those roots. And so I think the way we think about the menu is like they're conversation starters. It's like, oh, why that? Or like, that's interesting. I would never have thought of that combination. Because ideally, I think people find, sorry, it's like weirdly an emotional topic for me, but hopefully people find a personal connection to something on the menu themselves. So that's so silly. I usually like can say that without crying, but yeah.
Please be authentic. That's the beauty of it. Thank you for sharing, first of all. Yeah. I'm listening. I'm listening.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. So it's like, so yeah, okay, to just say that without
No, no,
getting overwhelmed,
you do you.
the idea of like, so German and Chinese are two cuisines that don't like off the bat feel like they have much in common, but they actually do. Like we, for instance, pork is like a huge basis, like noodles and like certain kinds of like starches, etc. But like that's just like an example of like the kinds of connections that are in everything. And so hopefully that's just nice.
No, I mean, I love that. I love that. And again, thank you so much. I think you made my day by just sharing how emotional you feel about this topic. Tell me
Thanks.
more. What makes you emotional about this? What's going on in your mind, on in your heart?
Gosh, I don't know. I think it's like it just feels like there's so much fewer opportunities to have these kinds of pretty like they're really basic, connections like, hey, that tasted good, or like that reminded me of like something I grew up eating. Like these are commonalities that, we can all share as humans, and I feel like we have fewer and fewer kind of organic ways to get at that because everything's very online, everything's very like pointed in terms of like, what interactions we have are very like opinionated. It's more like an attack rather than a like curiosity seeking. So I think finding ways that we can still do that in something like very everyday like a coffee shop is really important to us. Thanks. Just like give me that moment to like kind of spruce up.
It's all good. I mean, I was going to ask you what's been your hardest day, but I think we could talk about a different talk. Okay.
That's fine. Hardest day because to be honest, like those emotional things are all like positive. Like it's what I hope that like people find, and if they do, great. Hardest days, Jesus. I feel like it's more that it's hard to do this or any sort of like solo but like small business sort of proprietorship sustainably. And so it's just like the days that are hard, it might not be that like anything specific happened that day. It's just like it's been a long series of days, and it's like it's just the last straw, and you're like, oh yeah, that too on top of everything else. And I think that's why it's especially nice. Like I don't know how people do it solo. Like I'm glad I have two partners because we're very different personality wise, and generally we're what might stress one of us out is actually maybe a strength of the other. Like Jacqueline, for instance, is like an amazing like spontaneous, like deals with chaos really well, and so certain things she's like, don't even worry about it, I'll handle it, I'm just going to be there tomorrow, and like whatever comes. And for me, I'm very good at planning, and so it might be like, oh shoot, we have like all of these deadlines for permits and like things, and I'm like, oh, I got that. That's, like easy to break down and organize. So, but yeah, it's just a lot sometimes, and it kind of hits you. So, and I also feel like there's like I enjoy the fact that it's this community is of like-minded or like people in similar positions, because I feel like it can be lonely. Like it's like, oh, who do you, like you can't complain really to people who aren't in the industry about these struggles, because it's like, oh, you're living the dream, like running a coffee shop, and it's like, well, it's not always butterflies, and like it's worth venting about, it's worth finding like support for that too. So yeah.
Love that. Love that. I mean, that's so true. And I mean, Tiffany, that's across the board. Like, I've seen people, coffee shop owners across many, many countries. And one thing that, again, they might be sort of, authentic and true when they say don't do it. But when you ask them, why are you doing it? And it's always that deep passion, exactly what's coming from your eyes and your feelings. I mean, it's real passion, right? That you really love what you're doing and you want to share that love with your community. So that's awesome. How about this? What if you had a mentor on your fingertip? What would you do? What would you ask? What would you, I mean, what would, sort of solve your problem, if any?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think I would get their take on like, because it's a year in, so we have some data on like, and some knowledge, some lived experience of like who is our audience, like who's coming to us, who's coming back, etc. Like, so I think I would ask, well, how do you best use that information, and what are the most important like questions I should be considering, like given like now I have some knowledge, because we have so many questions that we're like, we have a list of things we're going to answer, but it's like, well, which ones are the most important? Like, for instance, lately we just expanded our hours. Like we posted about it next week, adding another day and extending to nighttime on one of our days. Otherwise, we're 8 to 4. And so, I mentioned that we have like cocktails and beer and wine and things like that. And there's sort of like a, how do we make that arm work? And how do we kind of fit it within this like holistic, like, meet you where you are, like this is a space for everyone at any time of day, but also like fit that within the reality of like, well, what if we're in a place where people just don't go out? Or like, what if, like, how do we find out more information and like both keep our vision authentic and like on that track, but also incorporate like what we know about what's reality, and like hopefully like again meet in the middle, like we can kind of encourage people to come out even if they're not like, it's not in their habit already, but also like, what if there's like a lot of like, I don't know, like a big, we go on morning runs kind of contingent, like let's like, like build for that too.
Yeah, that's a great point. May I ask, I mean, because I have some thoughts here, may I ask you what kind of questions do you ask, and when and how do you ask those questions to your customers?
Yeah, to customers or just about them,
To
like.
two customers, when you get that data, how do you get that data?
Yeah, so a lot of it is, so not a lot of it, but like definitely some of it is inferred. Like we are near, we know people when they come from the apartment building that we're in, oftentimes they'll tell us, or it'll come up in conversation. And so we get a sense of like, okay, like a lot of our regulars are those who live in the building. They tend to come either in the morning or the afternoon. Like sometimes they'll stay, but usually they're just, here for XYZ, or it'll be like we're next to this fitness solid core, and so we get a lot of the solid core teachers as well as students that come in and out, but we also get people who don't like look and see that there's a place either. So it's like I'm really interested in trying to understand like what makes somebody see a place and like kind of step into it like spontaneously versus just like literally not see it. But then yes, also like understanding as people come in, like just their habits, like are they meeting people here? Are we serving the needs in the space of like, if they're hanging out, is it like too noisy for them to have a conversation or not? So yeah, kind of comes up organically.
For that, okay. Can I share something that I've seen work from the experience? By the way, do you spend on marketing currently? How much do you
We
spend
don't
with?
spend that much. So marketing is probably our biggest, and that's why all these questions come up, because it's like, okay, yeah, we could do a lot more, even like placement of like a sandwich board if we were like doing things like to target a certain audience or like people that live in a certain area. So yeah, definitely want to be doing more.
Okay, okay. No, the reason I asked is because the thing that I love the most is, and which I always tell people is, when you look at Instagram and you look at all of this thing and these things, people just spend the money, but it's like shooting in the dark. You're not really.
Yeah.
I mean, and you don't need a lot of money essentially. I mean, even if you spend $200 or $500 in a given month, you could actually gain a lot out of it, even 10 times.
Mm.
Right? You can easily do that. So I think the best, if I were to take a shot at sort of answering your question of thinking thought partnering with you, I would say that firstly, I think there's always a kind of person who's coming to your coffee shop, right? In my language I call it persona, right? So what is that persona? If I were to define, okay, one, two, three, we are talking about three specific persona, three kinds of people, right? So for example, Akshat is one persona who's a remote worker, who works from home, who lives in this building, who's this age, who likes to sit for longer hours, come in the first hour of the day. So getting to know this persona, so naming this persona and making and a proper image. This is how I would describe an Akshat, and this is how I would describe that my coffee shop is perfect for Akshat, because this is what the person is, this is what they love, and this is exactly what we offer them. So that three layers of knowing the person, knowing what you're doing best, and knowing how this will sort of make them it the best experience for them. So I
Yeah.
think, if and sounds like you have those thoughts, because you're looking at the building people, you're looking at the gym folks, and
Yeah.
other things. I think clearly defining it, and then just in smaller ways to test it. You have your team, you have the three folks yourself, you may have a couple of baristas. You could just ask them, okay, if you could just name, I mean, just make a note every day, one person. I saw this person, name whatever you want, X or Y or whatever, because you may not get a chance to talk to them, but you observed. I
Hmm.
observed one person today, and this is what they did, this is what they like. A little bit of description about this person. And if even if you do it for a week, 7 days, you get maybe 15, 20 people in your list, that
Yeah.
okay, observe this person and that person and this person and that person, uh, in total from all your team. I think that will give you, okay, these are the top two kinds of personas that are coming to our shop, and they're coming because fill in the blanks, that is what
Yeah.
you are offering them. Once you have this, I think it's like doubling down on that aspect. For example, if it's an Akshat who loves, who's very much into well-being, doing healthy activities like running, you said, right? So I bet there would be a lot of, in your city there would be a lot of smaller groups, smaller organizations doing something. So partnering with them, because you can always offer, so I mean, for example, if I have a community of morning runners, right, and Tiffany is coming to me that, hey Akshat, you know what, you have a group of these people, the first 10 that join your next Sunday's run, we give them a coffee, or do
Yeah.
like, like be there where these people are outside your coffee shop. For example, Akshat is in this building, so of course he would come because I give the best experience what this person needs. But Akshat is also going to that community for runs every Sunday. So let me partner with Akshat there. So meet Akshat at a couple of other places. Like you said, meet them where they are, right? So
Yeah.
this is good, because they'll say, okay, I know this. I see them here, I see them there. Let me bring my friends also, because Akshat is friends with people like Akshat, right? So you
Hmm.
give Akshat a great experience, and then Akshat brings along a few more people. So make it a habit for them. I think that's what really sort of works.
Yeah. I love that. It's yeah. It's interesting because we have yeah, I think that's definitely that's the exercise very worth doing because we have kind of a wide spread of potential personas, and I think the idea of like prioritizing or just kind of focusing as a core on a few of them, I think is the
Yeah. Yeah, because you can always scale up, right? So imagine you just had to answer three questions. Who's my number one persona? What do they really like about the coffee shop? And the third piece is, how can I make this a habit for them to come meet us in our coffee shop? Just three simple questions. If you do whatever exercises you can think of, but just focus on these three questions, I think in a month you'd be miles ahead compared to the other coffee shops in the neighborhood.
That's great. Yeah. It's very timely too, because again, with the extended hours, like we already know one of our focuses is on the evening, like
Yeah.
those habits, which we've tapped into on a more ad hoc cadence over the last year. We've done a lot of events, like pop-ups and internal and external, and they've done really well. And so we're hoping to see what does that look like when it's also like a coffee program extended into the evening, and also like sort of the same program, not just like it's this and then a pop up, So that'll
That's
be
cool.
interesting.
Okay. I'll ask you this one last question, and then I'll let you go. Akshat is your persona. You're talking to me, right? And I'm curious. I'm really intrigued about your coffee shop program, how it's extending into the evening with different, sort of things that I can use, try, consume, etc. Tell me more about. I'm really intrigued, but I don't know anything about it. Tell me about this, your coffee shop extended experience or program.
Yeah, so it's it's similar to that, the whole idea again of like there's something for everyone here, even though that, you know, that kind of goes against the like persona like focus. It's the idea of like, well, if I want to hang out like that bar, that cafe vibe, like why does it have to be centered around the type of thing I'm drinking or eating? It can just be about the space. And so I think it's also, it's like kind of curving the idea of like coffee shop and bar being sort of separate things in people's minds, and more of the like, this is an all day cafe and bar. And so like, because right now we already have our alcoholic program and not a ton of non-alcoholic drinks as well. And I should have touched on this earlier, like a big part of the like subverting is not the right word, but it's sort of like the idea that like coffee's for everyone, the bar is for everyone. And it's like, what does that mean? Like cocktails don't have to have alcohol for them to taste amazing. And so much of the time they're an afterthought, or like decaf is an afterthought, or tea is an afterthought. And so like, again, with like creeping into the night a little bit, we want to meet you like, hey, if you want to drink coffee at night, we got you. And like, you know, like if you want to like have an espresso martini and then have coffee and then have like whatever it is, like I'm like, we're with you sort of throughout your day, and we want you to spend your day with us. So, and if you're, you know, like pick from our wide offerings, you know, to help you like stay with us. Like we want you to be here for a while, and we want to like be able to nourish you through that time. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so nicely said.
That's it for this episode of Inside the Grind. If something here helped, make sure to subscribe and pass it to another coffee shop or a friend. We all need each other more than we admit. To learn more or join the community, head to coffeefutures.fun. This movement is just getting started. Until next time, keep brewing. Your shop matters more than you know.